Let's do it. Are we ready? Let's go. Tonight we are reviewing the movies Inside Out and The Bikeriders. That's right, everybody. Let's check them out. Let's start with Inside Out.
Nice.
Oh, what did you think about Inside Out?
So typically I like walking into it, I'm like, the sequel, kind of is always going to suck for the most part. So I was walking in with kind of lower expectations in the first one. And I was surprised they held the same flame that they did with the first one. There were some teary moments in this one. I'm not going to lie. They kind of threw me off because they did a great job at conquering emotions. When anxiety got introduced and anxiety had an attack, I couldn't hold back the tears. None of us could. I think it was 4 of us together. And I think it was a very real, that's what happens inside of you. And I thought, as a kid's movie, they might not quite understand the complexities of it, but as an adult, you just feel for it. And it's like, wow, that's literally like a direct visualization of what's going on inside of me sometimes. And it's just like, damn, that's what, I don't know. I thought it was well done. I absolutely loved it.
I love what you're saying. I think that's I think you're spot on. I'm sorry to step on you, and we were talking about that earlier, but like, please continue. Like, I think you're right. Like, you're hitting the nail on the head about it. Captured everything properly and perfectly. I think it was also very familiar because it was now teenage years, and once it came in, I think those extra emotions that they were talking about, especially anxiety, pops in, and that was familiar to us as adults too. I know for me anyway. I don't know about you, what you thought, but just the visual representation, even like the tornado.
Fuck yeah. And just being glitched out and just locking up, and it sucks. And that they had one little line in there, where they're like, oh, you don't need these other emotions anymore. And that tore me up because I was like, you know what? Like, I try to think of myself as a happy person. I was like, but I'm not as joyful as I used to be. I guess I just don't let myself, I think of all the things that I shouldn't be joyful about. So I only get so happy, and I'm like, fuck, man, like, I need to not throw those in a box. I need to let those come out more and just live a little bit more. So, kudos to you guys that made Inside Out too, because as far as mental health goes, I think you really challenged me to push a little harder and do a little better and just be happier with myself and all of my emotions, not just, I guess, the surface ones. So well done.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. And I completely agree with you. All right. Well, we gave some ratings for this one, and I think they were pretty well. It was pretty well received. I gave it a 4, and you gave it a 3.5. That's right on point. I think this one is as good as the first one, if not better. And I also like that in the first one, they gave you both sides of it. You saw Riley reacting when they were doing things, but it seemed sort of like they were controlling her.
Yeah.
Whereas now, like, she was trying to calm herself down, and she was like, her emotions are going out of whack, but it felt like she was more in charge of what was going on rather than being controlled. And there's something about that I really liked. It added a nice element of, mental health and coping and things like that. So did a great job. Really well done.
Yeah.
Now another movie we went and checked out, The Bikeriders, starring Tom Hardy, Austin Butler, Jodie Comer. What did you think of this one before we get into what it was about and such?
So my mom, of course, immediately after I watched it, she's from the Midwest in Iowa. So of course, naturally, learning that the Vandals were real and from the Midwest area, I was like, I get Chicago's, not the closest, but it's not too far from you guys. I was like, did you have Vandals? She was talking about one story of, I guess a group of them were passing through, and they were kind of how it was in the movie, just immediately like kind of expunged. Like the cops were like, hey, we respect what you guys are doing, but, kind of get the fuck out type shit. And she was just like, they were polite. Like, they came in a bar, they all had a drink, and then they all just kind of moved along. So I just thought that was kind of cool. But as for the movie itself, I love Tom Hardy. I do. I like his voice. I just like his stature. I thought it was a great movie. I forget the gentleman's name that played Elvis. That's the main character in this.
Austin Butler. Yeah, he was great in Dune as well. Dune Part 2.
I liked him better in those roles, but I don't think he was supposed to shine as much in this one. So I will say this wasn't my favorite role with him, but I don't think that's a reflection of him. I think that's how the character was made.
Yeah.
This one was a lot more story than I expected. I thought it might be more of a Goodfellas type feel or Casino, where it'd be a lot more of them doing destructive things and, fighting and things. And it really was just more of the story of the gang, and then, of Butler's character as well, and everything that happens with him. I did enjoy it. I thought I enjoy a good story, and I thought it was good. I thought towards like the third act, if you will, it got a little dreary where it was like, all right, you guys, let's just wrap it up if this is the direction we're going. But I think it's absolutely worth a watch. And if you don't know anything about the Vandals, I found it very enlightening and it's fun.
Yeah, it is. I went back and I started researching a little bit about the motorcycle club and the book that was written. Because it was like a picture book, because that guy is following him in it. So the story is about the Vandals kind of coming together. Tom Hardy plays the guy who started it, and Austin Butler plays this guy Benny, who is like his best friend, right hand man. Like these two love each other like brothers, and they go through and they live for the club, and it really is. They're 1%ers. They do their thing. And I'm not saying that as an admonition. I to demonize anybody, because like I have a lot of friends who ride. They're in clubs, and I got to hang out with them. I was somewhat of a hang around for a club, and it was I think there's a lot of stigma put to bikers, but there is other sides to it too, and I thought this showed it really well. And I thought that it didn't. There's a lot of bad things that happened, but you kind of get it. Like before we get to the part where all the Vietnam vets and the chapters were expanding and things like that, and then they were picking up whoever, and they weren't really following the rules. It was cool to see the biker gang. Never say gang. I'm sorry, not the biker club. Go into, or motorcycle club, I should say, my apologies. Go into this, and like what they were doing, like you kind of got it. I'm not saying it was right, but it was the 50s, 60s. So I was like, you kind of got why reactions were that way, and they were just sticking up for friends, or like, trying to help out in certain situations. But it was fun. I liked that whole ride. So, and then when they got into kind of the club devolving and almost the Shakespearean ending they give to Tom Hardy's character is really well done. I love the story, and even seeing it devolve, like it was almost like when I was hanging out with the club and Sons of Anarchy was out. You almost saw like a lot of like motorcycle club culture devolve into that, where everybody's like glorifying the 1% and stuff like that, and they don't even understand. I'm not even putting it down 1%ers. Like they don't even understand the lifestyle of that. You think this is fun, and it is, but it's a lifestyle. This is something you live. It's not just something you do.
Right.
These guys are in. That, with the circus and everything else, like you were in, and that's the club you're a part of. And that's why it was always cool to see it from the outside and see that perspective. So they pegged that really well. Here's my prop. I wanted to make sure I point that out. I did not like the narrative of it from her point of view. I thought, like, when she started out, and Jodie Comer's character plays Austin Butler's wife in the movie, and it tells her tale of how she kind of came into it and things like that. And her accent, she leaned into. She's an English woman, but she leaned in so hard on this Chicago accent. And I'm not saying she wasn't. She did it right, but it was like amplified and exaggerated and disturbing. And it took every time. I almost walked out of quite a few scenes where she was just talking, and it bothers me because I like her as an actor. I just could not take that accent, and I didn't. I'm glad I didn't, because when she was in the story of the biker club, it just, I was like, cool. I was like, she's fine. It's still an annoying friggin' thing, but it's not so overpronounced because she's not being interviewed, and it's not like telling the story and like stuff like that. Like, it was just so grating on me. I didn't understand why they didn't just tell the tale from the photographer's point of view.
Right. I would have heard hearing him talk.
Take liberties, get him to do it. And it turned in this weird love triangle thing where I was like, this could have been a really good movie, and her character could have been really good towards it, because there were some great scenes with her, but just not as a narration. So like that dropped some points for me, because I could not take it. And I honestly, like, I like the movie a lot, but I don't know if I'll watch it again because of that. So that burns rewatchability factor for me. So that's why on this one, and we were both agreed on that, 3 out of 5. Yeah, we were both there. But I do say check it out. Like, you may like it more than I do, like anybody watching or listening, and I'm sure Paul thinks the same. You could love her accent.
I didn't. I thought it sounded like someone trying to do a really, like, trying too hard to almost sound Boston, and they're clearly not from Boston. That's what it reminded me of. It didn't even.
Oh, she had that. She had this
Chicago,
like
the nasally.
She had the Chicago and like
sound. And to
listen,
me, Chicago.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good.
I'm cutting you off. I just want to say, like, on top of that, like, it does sound Chicago, but like, it's just exaggerated. I'm not saying that Chicago women sound like this. Like, you sound more like she does when she's in the story. It's just so exaggerated when she's telling the tales, and it's like, God. Anyway, please proceed.
Oh, I was just gonna say one thing. Because of course I was talking to both my parents about it, and I was like, we were just talking about differences in ages, right? So I was telling my dad, I was like, hey, like when you were even in college, like were you still able to get in fights and people weren't sue happy or cop happy? Like two men could just have a fist fight, everything was good. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, to an extent. Like, I'm not saying violence is ever the answer to anybody, or I'm not saying I support that, but I do think that if two men have a problem and they both agree to just have a clean fist fight, I don't think that's wrong. And I enjoyed that they got in a fight with another club and then they're all drinking beers afterwards. Like clearly somebody won, or somebody actually got hurt too bad and they were like, we're good. And then they're all just drinking beers together. And I'm like, to an extent, I do wish it was kind of more like that, where if that's the only choice, yeah.
In clubs, it is.
Right.
It is. And I agree with you. I'm not taking that away from you. Like I've been there. Like it's not so like when it comes to dealing with things, like I've had fight, like a lot of friends I grew up with, like we started out fighting.
Right.
And then we became friends. So like I definitely agree. It is like that in the clubs. Still, they'll still duke it out if they have to. It's not like they go right to it.
Right.
But if there's a challenge, it's like you two take care of business and then it's done. Let it go. And I do agree with you. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that personally. But you know what there's also nothing wrong with? A mixed movie pick for this week.
Ooh.
That's right. And it's also our classic film review for tomorrow from 1995. It is the movie Friday.
Hell yeah.
It's a
You
great...
ain't got no job. You ain't got no weed. What you do? Fuck, man. Smoker. Sorry. Sorry, Mick.
No, you're good, dude. You're all good. I'm good. Please, big it up, please.
Man, I love that.
Yeah, so we're finishing off. We did our classic film reviews. They're all dedicated to the month of June for Juneteenth. I'm misspoken all day today, but Juneteenth, and we're celebrating Black cinema, Black filmmakers. And it's been a really awesome ride to rewatch a lot of this stuff and go back, check out the older episodes this month. And yeah, so Friday is such a great movie. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, it's great comedy, but it's great. Just well acted, fun movie about the day in the life in South Central Los Angeles. And Ice Cube and Chris Tucker kill it.
Absolutely kill it.
Everybody does. But I don't want to overdo it because you're going to get the film review tomorrow. Go check out Friday if you haven't. Paul, you have anything you want to say about this movie before we go?
I mean, it's a classic. That's a staple for all of us. I just remember first days, maybe smoking certain substances and just watching that movie and just loving every second of it. It's, to me, that's an urban Cheech and Chong, if you will. So I really enjoy how Friday does it, and I just think it's a lot of fun.
I love it. And that's true. It really is. And so, guys, if you want to learn more about the movie, how it was made, and who was behind it, check out Classic Film Review. Tomorrow we'll give you all that and our review. That goes up at midnight. But thank you, guys. Bye. I'm sorry I bit your head off in there, dude.